It's a pleasant Monday morning, the 25th of November, a day that Harmattan has indeed made sweet landfall. Good morning and welcome to your perfect morning starter right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
I know we're not used to that word landfall in Nigeria, but hey, this is our own season. We don't have winter, summer and all of that. We have Harmattan. In fact, we call it Harmattan. That's how we say it here. Welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma.
Well, the temperature here is just above 20 degrees, thereabouts. Yes, I'm live in the nation's capital, Abuja. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief.
I don't know what you guys have been tracking, Kayode and Jeffrey, but I have been tracking the Harmattan, and it's a good way to start the program this morning, particularly if the weather, goes on this way for the next 2 to 3 days. Motorists will have to be, extra careful while driving because visibility is even poorer, particularly because you have to contend with our friends on the road for want of better description. Now, the articulated vehicles, when you get to your turning, just slow down completely, let them go before you continue with your journey. Extra caution because of other people driving on the road. We have to take them into consideration because our safety depends on theirs and theirs on ours as well. Apart from that, so many other things have been happening. I don't know about you, Kayode and Jeffrey, but over the weekend it was interesting to note that Nigeria has signed what seems to be the beginning stages of a partnership with a Brazilian firm on meat processing. President Bola Tinubu led that discussion over the weekend with a company, to invest in Nigeria's $2.5 billion livestock sector. And it's something pretty much to chew on because, I wonder if that kind of investment is not something that, we can do by ourselves. Of course, we have leading investors in that sector in the country, both in the financial sector and in the long line of presidencies. It didn't quite sit well on Nigeria, asking foreign investors to look into that space on our behalf. And, it's not an investment that is, cast in stone. That company has to come back home, first of all, to do feasibility studies. And, I dare say that they are not unmindful of happenings in that sector when you talk about security. Just yesterday, there were reports about farmer herder clashes in Benue State. So I wonder, if it's something that they'll be enthusiastic about, if it will ever see the light of day. But because we have, everything that it takes to make the entire value chain in that sector thrive, it's instructive for leaders in that space, to reflect and take effective control of that space. Kayode and Jeffrey.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot going on. For me, I like to watch where Nigerian monies come from, which is the NNPCL and the oil and gas sector, because I always call it, a cash cow. At least for now, it accounts for over 70% of our exports, and that is very critical. And, well, one of the things I've been looking at from the news, I'm just looking at the, basics, something that looks like a contradiction between the NUPRC and the NNPCL, so production figures. On one hand, the NNPCL is saying 1.8 million barrels per day, and NUPRC is saying 1.5. So which figure should we actually abide by at the end of the day? So these are very important things that we do not need to play with. If these figures are being bandied around that are not correct, then I don't think it's good for us at the end of the day, because every a single figure accounts for money for us. So it's important that these two groups, if you will, come together, and let's be very clear, because it doesn't say something really good about how we manage figures and our production capacity. The opaqueness of that industry and the vagueness is still what we are trying to battle with. So this has added to another layer to it. But I hope we'll get clarity as to this disparity in figure. And besides that, Kayode and Bukola, one of the things that has been bothering me over the weekend is what I consider the uneasy calm of Nigerians despite what is going on in this country. The economy is biting hard. Fuel subsidy removal, floating of the naira. We've said this is like a broken record. But people are I'm worried. The quietness, I don't know. I really can't place where this quietness is coming from. But it's that kind of calm that is very concerning as far as where I sit is concerned. because in other climes, people may have been protesting, things may have been happening, and not lying to government rest, but people just shout and just keep quiet. Nothing is going on. I'm not agitating for people to go on the street and do anything. I'm just saying, for Nigerians who are very, very particular about the management of their country's commonwealth and what is going on right now, for all of us to be this calm and just watching. Is it that we believe the president that things are going to get better, or we're just watching? I don't know what this calm is really all about, but it's very concerning for me from where I sit currently.
Oh, yes, you can say that again, Jeffrey. Nigerians are naturally very understanding people. If there was some sort of award, a global award for the most understanding, most patient citizens, then Nigerians should clearly get that. I mean, talk about the oil industry, and this is something that has been on for quite some time now. It's the irony in it that really strikes me. We have abundance of crude oil, gas, but at this point, petrol, which is a derivative, is now a luxury item. So it's just the irony, the contradictions for me. On the one hand, you see all of the potential, all of the resources, human capital, natural resources, and then you look on ground, as they say, and you don't quite see it. So the irony has been on for decades, I should say, and it's something clearly that has gotten much worse in the past few months, past few years, depending on how you're keeping track. So clearly we need to get rid of this irony, and that is why we're here today on the show, just to keep troubleshooting these issues, ensure that we get a headway as it is. And one thing that is quite remarkable for me, guys, is the fact that, hey, I've been counting down to Christmas for over 2 months now, and I'm still looking around, guys, and I'm looking for the semblance of Christmas, from the Christmas trees to the usual lights. Growing up, I mean, Christmas started from late September, October. You'd hear the radio jingles and all of that. But we're going to be showing you something on the show this morning just to help you understand that Christmas is actually here. Might not be very close to you, but it is here. So we're going to be giving you that dose of hope, that dose of joy of the season, guys.
Speaking of a huge dose of joy, we have bright lights coming from, no other place than the nation's commercial capital, Lagos. And who's the sponsor of the bright lights that will bring you a huge, joy booster this morning? Let's have it.
Well, before...
Activities heightened at the Eco Hotel roundabout and at Jose Adeogun Corridor, Victoria Island, Lagos, as Zenith Bank gets set to light up the area in line with its annual Christmas tradition. Guests are already arriving, waiting to experience the usually electrifying moment when the beautifully decorated Christmas lights come on. The arrival of the Group Managing Director of the bank signals the beginning of the event. It's no time for long speeches, however, there is room to appreciate the journey so far.
You're welcome to the 2024 Zenith Bank Light Up Ceremony. I'm so happy to be here to see a lot of beautiful faces, looking so joyful and looking so hopeful. We're all here to celebrate the season. We are about to commence the Christmas season, and we decided to come here today because Christmas season signifies joy, love, the period for sharing kindness to the world. Thank you very much as we continue to light up this season.
And behold the transformation, a magical winter wonderland, and the jubilant guests just want to dance. The Zenith Bank Light Up event is more than just a festive celebration. It comes with a message.
And Zenith Bank is a bank that's known for customer service delivery, and we always put our people, our customer, and our technology ahead. So my message for them this season is that this is a season of love, this is a season of kindness. I want them to please share love, share kindness to everyone, the loved ones, as well as the less privileged. They should make everyone around them happy so that they can celebrate this season with them.
For many here, this is a testament to the bank's commitment to giving back to the community, and the excitement is palpable.
I feel very excited, and I come here every year
next you visit Lagos, Zenith Bank would no doubt be delighted to have you come. Enjoy the magic of the light up.
And so the Zenith Bank light-up ceremony seems to have become a culture, yearly culture that we expect, particularly at this time of the season, to ushering the Yuletide. And it was pleasant to watch, Jeffrey.
Beautiful. And so that is it. Christmas, Yuletide, whichever you want to call it, has kicked in. And so everybody get ready. When I was young, we'd go around our aunties and uncles' houses to eat rice from one location to the other. That's how we ran this thing. But now we're now adults. So they should now come around and eat rice and chicken as much as they can. But Bukola, that's all we're doing today. What else are we talking about?
Quite a lot. First of all, we touch on national issues, state of the nation, as we piggyback on that meeting from the PDP Governors Forum. We look at their resolutions on the Edo and Ondo elections. Of course, they also spoke on President Bola Tinubu's economic policies, calling for reforms such that the hardship in the land can be reduced. We talked to the PDP today about the outcome of that meeting.
All right, not just that, the Supreme Court has made some pronouncements in the last few days, on one of which one of the decision has to do with lottery and games. The Supreme Court has just told the federal government, you are overreaching your jurisdiction. Leave things like lottery and games to the states. And that is the decision of the Supreme Court. We're going to explore all of this, plus other decisions of the Supreme Court of Nigeria today on the program.
Also, we look at the public accountability space with ministries, departments, and agencies. So after a report by the Auditor General of the Federation, which exposed irregular payments of contracts totaling over 197 billion naira across various MDAs, our guests will be joining us to analyze the implications of this issue on financial compliance and procurement processes.
Okay, so those are the things we'll be looking at today on the program. We're here in Nigeria, all around the world, of course. Bukola and I are here in Lagos, and Kayode is down there in the nation's capital. But we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you our top stories, get to what you've been talking about the next CTV Morning Brief, our social media of choice X. That's how you get to us, so we amplify your thought and your voice. And after that, we'll get to the very first conversation for the day that has to do with the PDP, their resolution, looking at internal politics of the party, as well as the economy under President Bola Tinubu. Join us again.
Welcome back. Now, top on the brief this morning, the People's Democratic Party Governors Forum has called on President Bola Tinubu to review Nigeria's macroeconomic and fiscal policies. During its meeting held in Jos Plateau State, Chairman of the group and Governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, says the forum is concerned about the economic hardship in the country as a result of the policies of the current administration, and notes that the PDP governors will continue to aggressively pursue policies and programs that will ensure progress and development in their states.
The forum calls on the President to urgently review both macroeconomic and fiscal policies that will address the welfare and well-being of Nigerians. The forum wishes to pledge that all PDP governors will continue to aggressively pursue policies and programs that will reduce the hardship and ensure progress and development.
The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has called on President Bola Tinubu to order an investigation into alleged 57 billion naira of public funds missing, diverted, or stolen in the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation in 2021. In a statement by its Deputy Director, Kolawole Oluwadari, SERAP is asking the President to direct the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, and appropriate anti-corruption agencies to probe the allegations. And to Edo State now, where the governor, Mr. Monday Okpevolo, has approved the formation of a 14-member State Assets Verification Committee to investigate the administration of his predecessor, Mr. Godwin Obaseki. The Chief Press Secretary to the governor, Mr. Fred Itua, while confirming this in a statement, said the committee, which will be inaugurated on Tuesday at the Government House in Benin City, the state capital, will be chaired by Dr. Ernest Omakie. Now to security, the Nigeria Police Force says its explosive ordnance disposal unit has recovered unexplored military ordnances in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. A statement by the Force Public Relations Officer, Mr. Olumuyiwa Adejobi, says following reports from vigilant residents, the explosive ordnance disposal team was deployed to secure the affected areas, and all ordnances were safely evacuated without any loss of life, injury, or property damage. And the governor of Yobe State, May Malabuni, has approved the payment of 70,000 naira minimum wage to the state civil servants with effect from December 2024. The governor's spokesperson, Maman Mohammed, says the approval followed a recommendation of the Committee on Minimum Wage constituted by the state government. The committee had recommended a reconciliation of local government finances to ensure a hitch-free transition process of the local government councils from the existing salary structure to the new minimum wage. And in business, the Dangote Petroleum Refinery has announced a reduction in its price of the premium motor spirit to 970 naira per litre for oil marketers. The company's chief branding and communications officer, Mr. Anthony Chiejina, said in a statement that the decision is the refinery's way of appreciating Nigerians for their unwavering support in making the refinery a dream come true and also assured the public of quality PMS. And on the international scene, after 2 exhausting weeks of chaotic bargaining and sleepless nights at COP29, nearly 200 nations have agreed on a bitterly negotiated climate deal, which will see a $300 billion pledge from wealthier nations. However, proper nations most at the mercy of worsening disasters dismissed the amount, describing it as insultingly low. Nations had struggled to reconcile long-standing divisions over how much rich nations most accountable for historic climate change should provide to poorer countries least responsible but most impacted by Earth's rapid warming. And in the world of sports, Mohamed Salah fired Liverpool 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League table as the leaders survived a scare from 20th placed Southampton. Thanks to the Egypt Stars' second half double in a 3-2 away win, Liverpool have left second placed Manchester City trailing in their wake after the champions' shocking 4-0 defeat against Tottenham Hotspur. And that's it on the top stories. But what are you saying about some of the big stories making headlines? Are you talking about the just concluded COP29, where it was a difficult, victory for developing countries with 30% of what they negotiated for coming through following negotiations between wealthy countries who are most responsible for climate change in the country? Or are you talking also about, the report by the Auditor General of the Federation, which has uncovered contract irregularities in MDAs totaling 179 billion naira, of course, which will form much of our talking points today on the program. But Jeffrey joins me now for a review of your thoughts. Hello again, Jeffrey.
Bukola, let's find out what the people have been saying. I particularly like this segment because it's our feedback portal as far as what you've been talking about on the social media, especially on X. So let's get straight to the very first one, where Dangote Refinery says it has reduced pump price. Okay, not pump price now. PMS price, wholesale. So when Dangote says it's selling PMS at a certain price, let's be clear, they said that's wholesale to the marketers whether it's Moman, Ipman, and all the man people.
So from 919 naira per liter to 970 naira per liter.
Yeah,
so just a 20 naira reduction.
So, well, for me as a Nigerian, I don't think I'm impressed yet.
There's no need to celebrate, right?
What is 20 naira? At the end of the day, look, these days I don't even know what's wrong with the PMS. You buy PMS,
and it
used to buy less than 15,000 before. Now you buy for 75,000 for your car, and in 1 week it's over. I don't understand. Is it anyway? Let's find out what the people are saying on this one. Joseph says, "Bravo to Dangote refinery, and we hope the marketers will also reduce their own price for the benefit of the consumers." So,
and
just 20 naira. Just before you get too excited.
So don't rejoice. So, but we've seen a crawling reduction in the pump price. Let's acknowledge that from 1,100 naira per liter, we saw it reduced to 1,050 naira per liter, and now it's down to 1,040 naira per liter. But it depends on where you're buying from, because in some areas in the country there is no significant reduction, maybe 5 naira, maybe depending, particularly for those in the north, they may still be buying for 1,100, 1,200 naira per liter. So who's the next writer this morning?
Amy
Obi says Dangote refinery reducing price is like naira depreciating and appreciating against dollar. It will lose 20 naira and gain 2 naira. They were increasing price of petrol by hundreds of naira. Now they are reducing by 10 kobo. Amy, we get you.
We need to frame and screen grab and frame this one. I like this perspective. So now that the dollar, the crude oil is down in terms of pricing, WTI is even less than 70. The other one is around 70. Is this? So if crude oil price goes to 100, how much are we not going to be buying fuel? So because it's deregulated. Oslo says way still too high. For national peace and economic prosperity, Nigerians should trade the other product in crude oil with Dangote to get 150 naira to 200 naira per liter price from Dangote refinery, not depot price, pump price. This way, no cash is paid as subsidy to anybody.
Let's go to the next talking point now, yes, Jeffrey. And this time is from Edo State, where there's a new dawn in the administration following the change of guard. Governor Monday Okpebholo has restored Oba of Benin's full powers. Of course, we also hear that he has set up a panel to probe his predecessor in office, former Governor Godwin Obaseki. So what are you saying about this new decision by the governor? Nana says, ordinarily, I don't like commenting on traditional issues like this. However, my only advice to to my Edo sisters and brothers is not to allow the historic traditional monarch to be politicized.
We've been talking about this, well, it's been a back and forth. Let's find out from what Adiola says. I wish I could say it here. Okay, that's it. This is the beauty of democracy. Kudos. I guess you wanted to say to able governor. And
Ekene says, the truth is that politicians have found their way into the monarchy and they'll do everything to control them for winning election. I guess it's trying to say to win election.
Yours says, kings like the Oba should not be subjected or subjugated to the governors of the state.
Now, let's go to the next talking point. At this time, it's about the report from the Auditor General of the Federation, which uncovers 197 billion naira contract fraud in MDAs. And Divine is the first user. Divine says they keep uncovering with no one accountable for it. Almost every MDA has control officers. Are they not supposed to vet and approve all the necessary vouchers before payments are made?
All right, so it's going to be part of our conversation in the program. So we'll have to help break it down as to what these irregularities are. There are policies of government when it comes to public spending and expenditure. Some of these guys did not follow through, and the Auditor General has actually found those gaps. Suleiman says, name the MDAs and those involved and the amount. More importantly, let's see that proper action is taken against them, not the business as usual. If you get to the papers, I'm sure you see the names of some of those MDAs as well.
And Emmanuel AJ says those responsible should be arrested, investigated, and tried for gross corruption and theft.
Okay, Freeman says audio money. If not audio money, use that same money to build cassava processing factory. Let's see that recovered money did what recovered money did in Nigeria or does for Nigeria. I guess that's what you need to say.
Good question. Amostode says the issue is not how much has been uncovered, but has it been recovered all the money that was recovered by the EFCC, what was it used for?
Okay, so that's as far as public accountability is concerned. We're going to talk about this as much as possible, because I forgot to say, I saw a few days ago, that the EFCC boss had fired 2 officials who, I think they alleged they went to some sharp practices, and they will be prosecuted. I think I must commend him for that. You know, I've always told him that Yahya Bello is not taken to court, and so that the man clears his name or is found guilty and goes to jail. That is my marker for him, whether it fails or success. Not these Yahoo Boys things, as much as we commend him for that. But we must also commend him for firing some of his officials who are giving the commission a bad name, because we hear allegedly that some of those officials are cashing out. So, Mr. Olukoyede, you have to zoom in on your people. Just like you follow up on Yahoo Boys, your boys, you have to follow up on them, because we're hearing a lot of things allegedly. So,
and speaking of calling out institutions, but suffice it to also say, that the Independent National Electoral Commission should also look within its space and fish out officers who are being compromised or being used by politicians to manipulate elections. Indeed, during the last general elections, there were reports that it identified some officials. I can't recall now if the report was that they were suspended, but what specific and definitive punitive action has been meted out on those officials, such that the bad eggs within the system are flushed out.
Exactly.
We really should know. There were so many reports of irregularities during the just concluded Edo election, but what is the commission doing about it? And this is the time where we call out the commission. Where is the spokesperson on voter education and public enlightenment? I don't
know whether they even have a substantive person in that
to the
place.
press. There must be accountability from the commission. So we want INEC to talk to the press.
Absolutely. I think the only person that speaks to the press, I think I've seen his appearance just once or twice, is the chief press secretary to the national chairman. I don't know whether they have a voter education commissioner right now.
Indeed, INEC does have a...
I don't know, because since Professor Tokoyo left, that's why I said I don't know whether there's somebody that has replaced him and all of that doing that role. But if there's a person, you're not doing that commission well by not speaking out. Your chairman is not speaking, nobody is speaking. That is not good. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, it's going to be time for us to have a conversation. Our colleague Kairi is in Abuja, is going to start on that conversation with all our guests, and we're talking about the issue of PDP Governors Forum and some of the things they've raised, the internal party politics, as well as their comments on the management of our Commonwealth by Bola Tinubu, our president. Join us again.
The forum is strongly advising the NWC to coordinate latest by first week of February 2025 to allow for elaborate consultations with critical stakeholders of the party. The period between November and February is to address the existential problems confronting the party with deliberate timeline of activities within the period under review to address issues of leadership and litigations confronting the party.
So there's politics for the sake of politicking, and there's politics for the sake of nation building. On the show this morning, we're sticking to the latter, politics for nation building. Well, PDP governors met just recently, and well, that's part of the outcome from that meeting, postponing the NEC up until next year, or at least latest next year, February. But they also spoke about the state of the nation, state of the economy, and they called on President Bola Tinubu to reform economic policy. So these are some of the issues we'll consider on the show this morning, as we're joined by Mr. Ologbondiyan, who's the former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Is right here with us in our Abuja studio. Good morning, Mr. Ologbondiyan.
Good morning, Kaori. Good morning, Jeffrey, and good morning, Bukola.
I understand that you were on the show a few weeks back, and then you made some sort of predictions. Well, I was on vacation then, but it's quite interesting, all the things that have happened ever since then. But let's start with politics for nation building, because sometimes people can get lost in these issues and they're not sure, what do we get out of this? So let's begin first with a resolution for some sort of reform in the economy. What is the exact alternative that the PDP is bringing forward? And I want you to, put this on the back of the fact that there are divisions within the party. So who or what ideology do you align with, first of all? And does that ideology have some sort of alternative reform for this nation?
Basically, I, as an individual, as scholar Ologbondiyan, I subscribe to the ideals of the party as laid down by the original founders of the party and as demonstrated in governance under President Olusegun Obasanjo, under President Seun Musa Yar'Adua, and under President Goodluck Jonathan. I subscribe to the ideas. For instance, on the economy, let's take the painful issue at hand now, which is the issue of subsidy. Because what has brought the nation to its knees are the first two major decisions reached by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, particularly on the subsidy and on the floating of the naira. I think these were the two major issues. But under the PDP leadership, in time past, I'm aware that what we had was a phased subsidy removal, which also came with palliatives that are not just in terms of buying rice and distributing to people where they can find them, or telling people that, oh, you go and buy rice in your ministry at the rate of 40,000. The demands, the desires, the wishes of Nigerians go beyond, purchasing rice at a particular price or distribution of rice.
Are you talking about the phase removal during the Obasanjo government?
No, I'm talking about, the phase removal during the Obasanjo's administration, which was also continued during the Jonathan administration, which was, although that didn't even go far, but that policy...
What we saw during Jonathan's administration was cold turkey.
Yes.
It was removed.
Yes.
People protested and it was returned.
And it was returned.
Yes.
So what I mean about phase removal under President Olusegun Obasanjo was the fact that, they said that they had 4 phases of removal of subsidy. But the palliative that they brought in, they tried to introduce public transportation.
They tried to?
Yes, but they tried to introduce...
How successful was that?
Whether it was successful, they gave something, they offered Nigerians something, which Nigerians could latch up to. You understand? So, on the face of that, I believe that if we had a public transport system where you and I do not need to drive our vehicles to Channels Television this morning, where we could jump on the tram or we could jump on the bus, which could also be subsidized, I think the policies could have been better for Nigerians. But the unfortunate thing, as we are witnessing today, is that, and I'm sorry to say this, but it has to be truly confessed because it's before every Nigerian, is that we are paying lip service as a party, even as People's Democratic Party, to engage in the sitting government on its reforms, to put forward alternatives.
So you find it concerning that the state governors could not say, this is the concrete reform that we want, at least from that meeting. All they said was we call for reform and we as state governors will do what we can to ameliorate the situation. Do you find it concerning that there was no clear policy alternative from the governors, your governors, from that?
Well, I know that before now. I think that they championed the issue of stopping the tax reform of the current government. I think they have also, in time past, tried to say or to implement, according to them, decisions in their respective subnationals to ensure that things go better in their respective states. Well, that is left for those who are in those states to determine. But largely, you and I seated here know very well that the situation of the economy is very, very depressing. To put it that way, it's very depressing. Most people, as we speak, cannot even afford to feed, to eat. Most people, as we speak now, cannot even afford to buy medications. Fuel, which the President Tinubu promised in his campaign that, they are saying that they will increase it to 250 or thereabout. But which means that just go and rest of mind. We'll bring the cost down. Is today 1,100 in Abuja. Or if you are lucky to join the queue in NNPC, you get it to 1,060 naira. The difference of 40 naira.
Just before we toss this to our Lagos studio, so what we expect, even though PDP has just 33% of governors, the makeup of 36 governors, they have 12, so that's about 33% or thereabout. But that's enough. That's enough to really present, front and say, this is what we expect the government to do in terms of the economy, security, and all these other issues. But some say that it's possible that the APC government, President Bola Tinubu, has infiltrated the PDP up to the highest level. So that's why we've not seen that kind of move. Do you agree?
Kaudi, it is a known fact. It is there in the public domain. It's known.
So how high, how much of an infiltration are we seeing?
It is very high. There are various allegations running the rounds, even within the party itself, about how much the leadership of the party has been compromised. So when we have that kind of a situation, for instance, let me give you a practical example. After the Ondo State election, the acting national chairman of our party, the national chairman of the APC, Dr. Umar Ganduje, came out and said that, they know how to hit and hit rightly, and that they are going after Osun and Oyo states in their next respective elections. Ordinarily, you will expect chairman to chairman, the acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, to come out bluntly and say these are wishes, or to even rise in the defense of his own political party. But as you and I are speaking here this morning, Ambassador Umar Ilyasu has not said a word in response to the promise made to Nigerians by Ganduje. So when you have that kind of a situation, Kaudi, does anybody need to tell you the major and another major plank?
I'm saying another major when plank, I say the highest level, I'm talking governors as well.
No, another major plank of our party. The FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, is in APC government. And I believe that when you serve in the government, you want that government to succeed. There's no way you can serve in the government and seek to destroy the government. But that will amount to another level of political machination anyway. However, he has his influences within the party. And so if he wishes the government in which he serves to be doing well or to achieve purpose, and he has people also on the other flank Is he going to encourage the people on the other flank to run against the wishes of the government?
Well, let's toss it over to Lagos. Abukola Jeffrey, over to you now.
Mr. Ologbondiyan, so let's build on what you've been talking about with Kayode and stay with party politics for a bit. Let's stay with party politics for just a bit before we go back to the issue of the economy, because I would like you to profile different kinds of solutions. So I'm going to take the words of your colleagues. Shegu Showumi had said that one of the big problems of the PDP is Nyesom Wike. He says that if the president sacks Nyesom Wike, then we'll see. Because the president took Nyesom Wike without consulting the party, and that has given him some leverage. So do you agree that Nyesom Wike should be fired by the president to bring peace in the PDP? We've also spoken with some of your chieftains in the party, and some have problem with Atiku Abubakar. Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president, still looks to us that he still has ambition to run for the presidency. Some say if he drops his ambition, he's going to, be able to calm some nerves at the end of the day. I know that I think Chief Bode George has spoken to that already. So I want you to look at these two gentlemen, Atiku Abubakar and Nyesom Wike. I know the last conversation we had, he said, oh, the party is bigger than these two individuals. But these two individuals looks like they are the chokehold of the party at the moment. Is that what you see? And how do you get out of it?
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. I thought you were going to come up with a question of, you promised me the last time that neck will hold, but now it has not held.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that.
Before you get there, Jeffrey, before you get there, I've already found an answer for you. So I don't think we need to go there. But if you wish to go there, it's still okay. But now going to your question, I do not subscribe to a situation in which you blame the challenges of your own party on another person. Yes, like Clement Obom said on your platform here, that it is their responsibility to create crisis in the People's Democratic Party. He has a point. But it is the duty of our own party to find solution within to whatever challenges that we are having. We cannot wait, because we didn't, in the first place, Chief Showumi said that President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not consult with our party before appointing Nyesom Wike as Minister of FCT. In the same line, I'm going with the same argument. President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not need to consult with the People's Democratic Party before he will remove Nyesom Wike, if he so desired. But at the same time, what is the leadership of our own party doing? If indeed and in truth, as we all know, that the challenges of the party is coming from that arena, what are we doing? Is it in terms of reconciliation? Is it in terms of disciplinary action? Sitting here, I can clearly say that I have not seen any direction in the party. Going to Atiku, and people say that, oh, Atiku should drop his ambition. His ambition is personal to him. And I know, and I've also canvassed, even on other platforms, that it will be his own desire too, to say that, okay, looking at what is happening, the situation within the party, I want to sacrifice my ambition. And I want to come and provide leadership for the Nigerians as well as my party. But that decision also is his to make. Whether he chooses to do that or not, like you said, will have his impact on the party. But I think that beyond the politics and above all this, I think that the current situation in which the citizenry has found itself should be at the heart of every political party, be them the major parties or the ones that have not been able to elect people into the National Assembly. But I think that the concern of parties and their leaders now should be what Nigerians are currently passing through. Like I talked about earlier, the situation in which people cannot afford meals, a situation in which people cannot afford medication, a situation in which people are enclosed in their respective homes because of their inability to buy fuel and put in their car or in their motorbike or in their keke napep and move around. The situation is very, very depressing. It's truly depressing. So it is left for the political class, and this is very important, before people come on the street by their own choices. It is imperative for the political class to go indoors, lock themselves up, and put first the condition of our nation, the condition of the citizenry.
All right, I wanted you to also answer the question of your neck that, you argued with me that your neck will hold, and I think I almost dared you to say it will not hold, and you pushed it again to February. I'm almost certain it will not hold. So why is it not holding this time? Because I read that the neck is saying, we're not going to hold because commiserating with the family of the governor of Akwa Ibom State who lost his wife and all of that. But I just feel that if you wanted to hold that neck, there's a way you could have adjusted that date.
Well, I buy into your position. I quite agree with you that while it is right to empathize and sympathize with the governor of Akwa Ibom State, His Excellency Governor Umoh Eno, concerning the loss of his wife, Her Excellency Patience Umoh Eno, and the Lord grant her soul eternal rest. I also believe, Jeffrey, that, like you rightly said, the timeline could have been adjusted if there is sincerity of purpose, either before the burial or earlier after the burial. But taking the neck, well, I listened to the chairman of the Governors Forum in the communique, and I've also read it, and I also commend his efforts, because those who understand the politics that is going on in our party today will understand his difficulty. But it's also okay that they said that not later than February. I want to stick to the issue of not later than the first week of February, because I am aware, and every party member who is still following the programs of activities that are listed by this National Working Committee knows very well that starting from February 1st, the zonal congresses, the screening of those who want to occupy those offices, who are bought from to occupy those offices, will commence. It's starting on February 1st. A working committee that can hide under a force majeure concerning the death of the wife of the governor of Akwa Ibom State will find an easy excuse if the neck is left in February. So I think that while we stick to the decision of the governors that they must do neck before the first week of February, that will make more sense. If this working committee under Elias Udamagun is allowed to take the neck to February, definitely, beyond the force majeure of the wife of the governor of Akwa Ibom State, beyond the fact that, oh, there was a religious celebration and we cannot hold neck, this one will be an active excuse to say that, oh, we have a screening of zonal officers, incoming zonal officers. So as a result of that, we cannot do neck. But I'm happy that the Governors Forum noted, and I think that was their first line in the communique, the division within the ranks and files of the party. And I think that that in itself is a lesson to all of us. Whether we want to take it, we want to believe it or not as party men, as members of the People's Democratic Party, our party is on the precipice. And a lot depends on whether NEC can hold to do what is right and what is provided for in the constitution of the party. In terms of succession, with reference to section 45 of the constitution of the party and 47(6) of the constitution of the party, and allow the North Central to produce the successor to Ayu to complete the term that Ayu left behind. It doesn't matter whether we have 1 day left. An assurance that I want to give is that the North Central will continue to make the demand that it be allowed its equitable, justice, and rightful space in the annals of the party. Thank you.
So I wonder if you also agree, Mr. Ologbondiyan, that this is the evidence, the fact that the governors are admitting that there are cracks within the wall of the PDP. So as a result, do you agree that this is evidence that the party really, because of this continuing internal wranglings, is unfit to provide leadership in 2027 as an alternative to the All Progressives Congress?
Thank you, Bukola. It is too early in the day to decide whether PDP is fit or is unfit ahead of the 2027 election. I believe that democracy, party politics, and what have you are about disagreements and reconciliations and discipline and all that to achieve the end purpose. So what the current experience that we are having in the party, which you have spoken to, is such that we have divisions, yes, but it does not follow that these divisions cannot be amended even before the next election. And you are also aware, and I can tell you this for free, that there are members even of other political parties, including the All Progressives Congress, who have become very disenchanted with the current system. I mean, the government of President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And they are praying and willing that, if the PDP can get their acts together, let us see if we can provide an alternative. We cannot throw that away. And we believe that that is what the President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government and his followership in the party are scared of. And that is why they are seeking for means of ensuring that no opposition political party will be fit enough to stand election with their candidate in 2027. But, like I said earlier on, Bukola, it is still too early in the day, because we might sail through and cross the river and present to Nigerians a party that will be viable and stable to hold political office.
But Mr. Ologbondiyan, it's as if you're continuing with the finger pointing that other party members, are engaging in by saying that the ruling party is working to ensure that there's no viable opposition. But even in states that are led by the PDP, what are the evidence to point to that indeed these states are providing alternative economic policies to provide a sense of hope to the people of the state that indeed the PDP is better? The situation is the same in all PDP states as APC states. And, speak to this as well. In the People's Democratic Party, the division continues with the report that, state governors and 24 state chairmen are working to keep Damagum in office till 2027. So on that level, there is no assurance that there will be stability in the party even before next year. And in other states where PDP is the ruling party, there is no sense of hope as well.
Well, because I have not distanced myself from your argument. I haven't. I recognize the fact, even if our own governors can go for a meeting, and in the meeting, some of their members refuse to turn up, and they acknowledge the fact that in the rank and file of the party, there are divisions, and very sharp divisions. If we have that kind of a situation in our hands, the alternative that is left for us, and if indeed and truly we are desirous of rescuing Nigerians from these pains and pangs that they are going through, then it behoves on us to bring back our own political party and to serve as the alternative. That's the point I have made. Talking about whether our governors are doing better or they are not doing better, or our governors and the APC are on the same wavelength, I will not agree completely with you, Buki. I cannot agree to that. Because I know that There are states in our own state, and you can see in public space, that it's only our governors that are commissioning projects. That's a fact. I don't know, maybe APC doesn't have a media standard that will enable them to commission projects and showcase to the world what they are doing. I'm not aware. But I know that in the People's Democratic Party, our governors are calling eminent Nigerians to come and help commission the projects that they are doing. So on the basis of that line, I still give it to our governors. And I also know that the People's Democratic Party was founded in 1998 to serve the interests of Nigerians. Where there are areas in which the party and its members have been accused by the populists, by Nigerians, to say that, oh, this is not our expectation. But Buki, let me tell you something. If you go on the streets of Nigeria today and you sample opinions of Nigerians, you are likely going to get a probability that will say that life was far better under the PDP than they are witnessing today. So on account of that, my appeal is to the leaders of the People's Democratic Party. Do not allow this party to flounder. You cannot reduce this party that has been labored for by the founders to the whims and caprices of an individual who is bluntly refusing to obey the rule, to respect the rule, which he enjoyed to become an acting national chairman. And like I always love to say, I do not have anything personal with Ambassador Ilyasu Damagum. Nothing whatsoever is personal. But I have a commitment to the desires, to the wishes of Nigerians to improve this country. And on that account, I believe that the political party that I subscribe to, the People's Democratic Party, can achieve that. Thank you, Buki.
Well, Mr. Ologbondiyan, we still have the present challenge with us. And this government will tell you, oh, we've done this and that. In fact, there's what the State House puts out from time to time, tracking the president's, policies and all. And PDP governors are calling for a reform. This government is saying it's reforming what the PDP did in the past 16 years before Buhari came in, also reforming what the Buhari government did as well. So it's just a lot in the mix, but our concern from time to time always really is the people who are looking for leadership that would at least listen, show that it is listening, and at least do what the people want it to do by making life easier. So it goes back to the question that we started with, politics for the good of nation building. Again, people have looked to the PDP, and this is what they see, what you have described. So how long more do Nigerians have to wait for the PDP to get its act together?
Well, thank you very much, Kayode. I'm a convert to politics for good governance of the people. Wholly, I'm a convert to that. To your question about how long Nigerians will have to wait, I just seek the patience of Nigerians more. Because I know, and like I have said repeatedly, our governors, even if they were living in a lie before, by their communique, they have come to a realization that the party is on the precipice, because they have admitted that there are divisions within the ranks, and fights. And so that's why they have said, oh, between now and first week of February, the solution has to be found, NEC has to hold.
Right.
You understand? So, well, these are timelines. We hope it comes to pass.
The interesting part is this government is asking for patience. The PDP is asking for patience. Come on now, just how much can Nigerians take? On a final note, it seems you're playing safe, Mr. Ologbondiyan. You're staying safe. You're not criticizing this party. You're not criticizing this party. Are you doing this just in case it works out for either of them you join? Because one, you have the governors. You can say, well, governors, I expect you to say categorically that this NEC must hold rather than postponing it yet again. You're not criticizing the governors. The presidential candidate of your party, whom a lot of people have said, well, we think you should step down. You're not criticizing him. You said his ambition is
personal to him.
Even the FCT governor, the FCT minister, yes. You just stayed safe. He said, well, it's okay. You can work in that. So
no, I have never said that Chief can work.
Well, you said that you expect that if it's working, it will work for the good of it.
No, I said no. I said that his appointment was never discussed with the party. That's my own understanding. Because it goes beyond writing letter to the national chairman.
Right.
But let me make this point, please, Kayode. By Chief Wike himself. The expectation is that if Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu desired a national government, he would have come out by himself and make a public declaration. I am going to run a government of national unity. And on account of my desire to run a government of national unity, I will bring a minister from party A. I will bring a minister from party B. So, and I said that since he is the one by himself who made the choice and made that choice a minister, no matter what PDP says, the solution to that challenge is inside the PDP. Because the president didn't consult them when he was making that appointment. And he will not consult with them too if he desires to exit it. That's the point.
So basically what I'm just trying to say is you see that everybody is right in their own position with the decisions they're making. So you're not criticizing anyone in particular.
No, that's not true. Why will I not criticize people?
So are you criticizing the governors for allowing the NEC to be postponed?
Oh, I have said that clearly. I said they have admitted within themselves, among themselves.
So are they wrong to have allowed the NEC to be postponed?
No, I wasn't in their meeting.
No, I'm saying the decision that came out. Are they wrong to have allowed it to be postponed?
How they wait? Yeah. We have had postponement. This will be the third or the fourth postponement that we are having. I have spoken when I address some youths. You understand? On the error of allowing these postponements to continue.
So the governors fell into that error.
The governors had fallen into that error. But in falling into that error, they have now said that, between now and first week of February. And I've also said it here, Sokaudi, that if you allow them to go into that February, if they could use the force majeure as an excuse without rescheduling the date,
they'll say it will clash with
they will also say that it's going to clash with the zonal election, and that will be another excuse. And I also said emphatically that our leaders must realize that our party is on the precipice.
Mr. Kola Ologbondiyan, former National Publicity Secretary of the PDP. You say you're now a journalist.
No, I said that I'm your colleague.
I've not seen you in any meeting or any of the other.
I'm your colleague as a journalist, and that always, I will remain a journalist.
All right.
So I want to be seen more
so like a
technocrat who is functioning in the political arena.
All right, Mr. Ologbondiyan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll take a moment now on the show, and when we return, there are big issues within the judiciary, and you don't want to lose sight of that. That's in a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's now talk about some of the pronouncements or decisions, if you will, judgment of the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, which is not just the Supreme Court, it's also the Court of Public Policy. So they made a few decisions in the last few days, one of which is the fact that lottery and games are now the exclusive preserve of the states. They affirmed that decision just a few days ago because we had the National Lottery Act of 2005. That by law is no longer in existence. So if they have to do all of that, that's to be domiciled in just the FCT, since the National Assembly has direct jurisdiction, since the FCT doesn't have a state house of assembly, because it's not a state, it's a federal capital territory. And also they talked about the earnings. The 36 states had taken the federal government to court, saying that the earnings from gas sales, especially LNG and all of that, it has to be accounted for, because in their argument, look, whatever is being made from our Commonwealth has to go to the Federation account, which will trickle down to all tiers of government. So the Supreme Court had dismissed and struck out that particular case as well. So we're calling on the lawyers to give us a fair interpretation of what this is and what it means for the polity. We're being joined on the program by an associate professor of law, public law, River State University, Professor Richard Nwokocha. He joins us via Zoom. Prof, thank you for coming on the program. And also,
thank you.
A legal practitioner, Mr. Stanley Ekpa, joining us from our Abuja studios. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program. Prof, let's begin with you to help us make sense of how this has played out eventually, because I think what you lawyers call res judicata on this particular issue of the earnings from gas, as well as this issue of the lottery and games. sometimes as laymen, when we look at some of these cases, we felt that there's a precedent that is already there, so why even try to adjudicate in the first place? But now the states have done what they've done, and for some they lost, some they won. So maybe you help us break down what the two judgment means for the polity.
Well, in the case of the judgment on the suit filed by the states, you have a legal principle which you just mentioned at the introduction, the principle of res judicata. The principle requires that a matter that has been settled, has been rested. So if a matter is judicially decided, it's decided and it's rested. There is no need to reopen it. And so in that case, the Supreme Court simply said, look, the Bauchi state government had come with this same request and we dealt with this issue. An objection was raised by the federal government at the time, the Attorney General of the Federation, that issues concerning revenue of the federal government, as you will find in section 251 of the Constitution, subsection 1, are within the province of the powers of the Federal High Court. So such issues on revenue of the federal government should go to the Federal High Court. The Supreme Court does not have original jurisdiction to hear such matter direct without having passed through the appropriate court that has jurisdiction in exclusion of any other court to hear such matter. And so when this matter was filed again, you look at the list, Bauchi State is among them, all the states, and they are talking about the same thing that Bauchi State talked about in the earlier case. And the Supreme Court said, look, we have dealt with this matter before now, and we have resolved on what the position is. So long as it is this case couched in this way, on this same subject matter, between the same parties, the same Attorney General of the Federation, that matter is rested. We cannot deal with it. We lack jurisdiction to deal with it. So that was his position on that case. In the case of the Lottery Act, well, there, you recall prior to this time that the Supreme Court had said a similar thing concerning VAT. If you look at item 59 on the first part of the legislative list, you find out what the federal government or the National Assembly is giving power to tax on is incomes, profits, and capital gains, except as otherwise provided by the Constitution. And so any other issue that is not within there, if you go to section 4, subsection 7 of section 4, which provides for the powers of the House of Assembly, it says whatever is not provided for in exclusive list and whatever is contained in the concurrent list falls within the province of the House of Assembly, to the extent that the concurrent list provides that the House of Assembly should act on it. And so what we call residual matters, matters that are not part of the exclusive list and matters that are not mentioned in concurrent list, fall within the province of the State House of Assembly. And that's the point that the Supreme Court was making in that decision, that lotteries and such games of chance are residual matters, and they are issues that State Houses of Assembly should deal with in the respective states, not one which the National Assembly has competence to make law on. And so the law of the National Assembly will only operate in the Federal Capital Territory, where the National Assembly is the legislative body for. Beyond that, the states have to make their own lottery laws as they require and as they need it. So that's the position of the court in those two matters.
Okay, let me come to you, Mr. Ekpa, with a second critical look at these decisions. And I'd like you to enlighten us, starting with the Supreme Court decision on the Lottery Act, nullifying it. I wonder if, the federal government has this judgment is a result of the federal government, looking with very little interest in that sector, because reports say that Nigeria earns between 50 to 60 million or billion dollars per year on games of chance. So I wonder if the federal government has very little interest in that sector. That's why this judgment has come, with what seems like a walk in the park. And with regards to the Supreme Court decision on gas earnings, is this a victory for the continued efforts to call for restructuring in Nigeria, or rather, is it a loss?
Thank you very much, Bukola. With respect to the Supreme Court decision on the Lottery Act, I think it's not likely the case that the federal government do not have interest in what happens in the sector, or the revenue base, or the contribution of the sector to Nigeria's revenue base. I think it's squarely, as the learned professor rightly said, it's squarely about the issue of the constitutional issue. The Supreme Court's hand, perhaps, a tie to the effect that the issue of lottery has to do with commercial activities at the local level. It doesn't fall within the exclusive jurisdiction as expected under the first schedule and the first part of the Constitution. Nor does it fall under the concurrent list. So naturally, it falls within the residual list. And of course, the Supreme Court would naturally have to interpret that to the effect that the states, the State House of Assembly squarely has the responsibility and the duty to make laws that regulates and enforces how lottery are being played in some parts. If you look at some jurisdictions, you realize the fact that except jurisdictions like UK, where there are centralized system of regulatory lottery, in some places where we have similar federal structure and system, lottery issues are actually not issues that are within the purview of the federal government or the central government. It is usually, something that falls within the purview of the subnational, the state level now. Squarely, when you talk of the issue of the decision on the gas earning, I think it's a good thing for our federal system, really, the fabrics of federalism. Number one, if you look at the fact that, the learned professor have already made mention of the fact that it's a decided matter, and of course, I agree with the Supreme Court to the extent that the matter has been squarely dealt with. And once the matter has been dealt with in the case that it aids and underscores the principle of res judicata, the Supreme Court as the final court just has the responsibility to ensure that such matter is not being re-litigated again. But what I think also that is very important is that the states now, the subnational attorneys general would have a responsibility. Because to me, I think that the core issues of this current litigation is distinctly different from that of the AG of Bauchi State versus AG Federation. In AG Federation, AG Bauchi and AG Federation, I think that the issue was squarely on the presidential order of 1980 that the court had to interpret that it was it had to border and affected the issue of the revenue sharing formula. Where I think the state made a mistake is the fact that they had to model up the entirety of what they are praying the court to do, asking the court to compel the federal government to account on the earning, the profits, the dividends that are accrued from since the Fourth Republic till date, and also asking the federal government to account and also to share the what they've discovered to be what has been mismanaged under the federation accounts. I think that they should have had it in mind that given the fact that the federal government have settled the issue of the sharing formula in the AG Bauchi and AG Federation, the next thing I think is that they should have gone through the institutions that are responsible really for what comes into the federation accounts. Institutions like the Federal Ministry of Finance, the Accountant General's Office, the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, to really have facts as to what exactly has accrued to the federation account since 1999 to date, and exactly how has the federal government mismanaged. Those are the facts to which they would have presented distinctly different that would distinguish this current case from that of the AG state and energy federation. But largely, I think that it is a good thing for our federal, for the growth of our federal system, that we are beginning to have the Supreme Court squarely, make decisions that are final on issues of this nature.
But in reviewing the case, would it be instructive for states to take a second look at the issues of resource control, which has been a long drawn agitation in the country, such that states can make more earnings from resources within their domain? Mr. Ikpa, that's for you.
Oh, thank you. I think that has to do with a constitutional issue that needs constitutional amendments. If you're talking about the fabrics of federalism that would have to change our revenue generation, derivative principles now, that will have to change the current 56% that goes to the federal government account, the current 24% that goes to the state, and the 20% that goes to the local government account. It then requires a constitutional amendment. Of course, it is wisdom that we change the constitution to require states where the natural resources are derived to have more control of their natural resources for the development of their local development needs. But that would have to be an issue of constitutional amendment from the National Assembly, really, and not from the Supreme Court. As the learned professor rightly said, the Supreme Court, there's a limit to which the Supreme Court can do a judicial activism, to effect or to advance for such. It will squarely have to be an issue that will require a constitutional amendment, changing or making some alterations to Section 162, of the Constitution, and then, of course, Section 1 of the Allocation of Revenues Act.
Well, let me take this to the associate professor via Zoom, because I imagine a lot of people are then looking, wait a minute, if the National Lotteries Act has been voided, then perhaps there are other laws that were instituted that are against what the Federation is meant to look and operate like. On the flip side is the 60 million gamblers daily, because data says from the National Lotteries Commission that 60 million Nigerians gamble on a daily basis. I'm not sure if this new decision will affect them, but it just speaks to the kind of activities that go on in the country and how these resources or the the revenue that comes out of the activities are shared, whether equitably or not. And it takes me to my question. So if we will have all of these reviews, and I know, as I said, a lot of lawyers, government will be going through the laws and saying, which one does not work? Let's go challenge it. But then you get to the Supreme Court and you see that as of first quarter of 2024, the Superior Court had total 243,253 cases pending, and that's from the CJN. So you wonder, clearly we have a backlog of cases and there are still people clamoring for justice. Is there really an easy way out for the CJN, or let me just say the judiciary, in this one?
Need to be tested. This is not the Supreme Court has spoken. There was a VAT case which the Rivers State government pursued up. The Supreme Court came to the same conclusion that VAT ought not to be a national law because it's a residual issue. It's not part of what the Constitution listed as what the National Assembly can handle. So there are a lot of laws. You recall at the end, towards the end of the military government, there was this this decree that was passed, a list of taxes to be collected by each of the tiers of government, and that was just rolled into the 1999 Constitution and relevant tax laws, rather, at the end of the military regime. Now, these things need to be revisited. What does not belong to the national government needs to return to the states. If you have enough resources for the state to deal with, there will be less agitation because states will have more on their hand to do. So yes, it takes us back to the resource control issue. There are resources that do not belong to the national space, and the state should be allowed to exploit those resources and to control how those resources are exploited. So this is just a tip of the iceberg. There are a whole lot of other laws, national laws, that need to be revisited, that ought not to exist as a national law. They should only operate at FCT, while the states should have relevant laws operating those issues or regulating those issues in the respective states.
And my question, let me just ask Mr. Ekpa as well, is do we have the resources in the judiciary to properly, adequately prosecute this issue of resource allocation, right? And that's why I mentioned the backlog of cases before our superior courts. Do we have the resources to be able to properly prosecute these cases of resource allocation? Because clearly, we need more resources if we will test the waters, as Prof said.
Thank you very much, Kayode. It's a known fact that the federal government is, the Supreme Court is saddled with different cases. But again, I think we do have the resources, really. If you realize the fact that the state attorney generals are the ones, or the state attorney general is the one that has the responsibility to prosecute such matters or to test the water, as Prof is suggesting. The state has the resources to prosecute such matters, and I do think that we must begin to see how we constantly test the waters. Out of the 68, items on the exclusive legislative list, if you test the waters on almost all those items, you realize the fact that the federal government to have no business having more than 40 to 35 items on that list, really. Particularly when it comes to issues of resource allocation, resource control. And so we have the resources at the subnational level to pursue and to test the water on how the state can galvanize, harness, and control its resources for the greater good of its being. Let
me let Prof have the last word on this. So we may have the resources to put up the case, to prepare the case, but do we have resources to adjudicate over those cases? And that's why I mentioned, the superior courts, really, because I imagine the judge is listening to us right now, if they get to watch TV, that is. Listening to us right now, thinking, there's enough on my plate already. How much more can we handle? So that's why I'm looking for a way out. Is there an easy way out, or at least a semi-easy way out for the judiciary on this one?
Well, on legal issues, the only way out is the legal and judicial way. So I believe that we have Supreme Court. This will be done. And there is nothing more important than having issues resolved. Once they are resolved, the country has a lot of problems. So I think the Supreme Court has enough manpower right now to deal with these issues. It's a question of time, and they will be able to resolve all of them. But it's better that they do than those matters remain that way and the country remains deadlocked the way it is, economically and developmentally speaking.
All right, Associate Professor of Public Law, River State University, Richard Wokocha, thank you so much for the interventions. These are things we have to do. We just need to ensure we get our acts right. As well as Mr. Stanley Ekpa, a legal practitioner, joining us from right here in our Abuja studio. It's good to have you on the show as well.
Thank you very much for having us.
And we take a moment now. We're still talking resources. Now, the resources are budgeted for, and then there's expenditure, the monies are spent, but then audit happens. So what comes up after the audit happens, and then we see irregularities? Now, this has been happening year after year after year. That's our next point of conversation. That your money as a taxpayer, how is it being spent? That's the moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. And as we coast home in our conversation this morning, we'll look at governance within the public sector with issues specifically of transparency and accountability. And this follows the report by the Auditor General of the Federation, which has uncovered contract irregularities within MDAs to the tune of 197 billion naira. That's quite a sum. And suffice it to say that this report covers activities within the years 2020 and 2021. And joining us to have this conversation this morning is the founder of Connected Development, non-governmental organization, Mr. Hamzat Lawal. Mr. Lawal, good morning and thank you for coming on the program.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming again. And the sum is whopping, to say the least, 197 billion naira. And in addition to that, the report also talks about two agencies, having the most in terms of contract irregularities, the Rural Electrification Agency. And I believe the list on that list by the Office of the Auditor General is the Nigeria Securities and Printing Company. But this support, particularly that of the Rural Electrification Agency, having the most, of contract irregularity, supports that report by the statement rather by the EFCC chairman, Mr. Ola Olukede, that corruption in the power sector is alarming. And to note that we have oversight functions that is supposed to have been provided by the National Assembly, and yet we still have this quantum of contract irregularities being reported in the public space. Does this come as a surprise to you, Mr. Lawal?
Not at all. I'm not surprised. And this is not the first time we're having this conversation, even on Channels TV. Every time the Office of the Auditor General releases a report, everyone would be shocked and surprised, and then everyone would be saying, how did this happen? But then every now and then, this repeats itself. You've clearly mentioned that we have the Public Finance or Public Accounts Committee at the National Assembly, both at the Senate and the House of Rep. And usually it is opposition member in the country that chairs that committee. And ideally, that committee, and I always say it's one of the most important committee, that should ensure that they provide effective oversight. And the Public Account Committee does not have to deal with specific MDAs. They have powers to do with every MDA that has to do with public resources that is been adjudicated to. Mind you, if you look at this payment, it's under the budget, close to 200 billion naira of Nigeria money. And maybe we should break this down, because a lot of people will say, 197. Now, this can provide access to potable drinking water in all the 704 local government. This can provide public school, state-of-the-art public school in all the 704 local government. This can provide state-of-the-art primary health care centers that people are complaining about in various rural communities. And now this only has to do with 1 year, or you might say 2 fiscal years. Now, even as the Office of the Auditor General released this report, and permit me to use, for the lack of choice of words, they have teeth, but they cannot bite. Ideally, the Auditor General of most countries, after they release fiscal report, they also have power to prosecute. So beyond releasing report, they cannot investigate, they cannot prosecute, so that we can learn lessons and close all these leakages. And there was a time we even had this conversation around the bill that seeks to empower the Office of the Auditor General, that beyond just undertaking audits in all the MDAs in Nigeria, they should also have prosecutory powers. Because right now, all the powers they have is to submit this report to the National Assembly. Mind you, this report is not made public. It is just a snippet of what was released to the media, quoted by the Auditor General. So we don't even have access to this report. And I remember we've written Freedom of Information letter to the Office of the Auditor General, even to the Public Accounts Committee at the National Assembly. Can you even publish this report so that we can see in details what is entailed in this report, so that the Nigerian people can know, we can hold government to account, and we can ensure that this does not continue to happen. Mind you, this happened under the last regime. The last regime that came into government that says they're coming to fight corruption. So again, I'm not surprised, because again, maybe in another 2 or 3 years, we would have another report, and then we'll probably come to the studio to discuss it when we have an audit bill that's successive government. And I'm not sure I don't know if President Tinubu will be very ambitious to ascend on this bill. Because if we don't, then we'll just have an Office of the Auditor General that does not have powers, rather than just audit account and do nothing.
So Hamzat, let's break it down. What exactly are we dealing with here? Because I read part of the story about 32 MDAs and all of that are involved. Are we dealing with contracts or deals not executed, or just irregularity in the way it was awarded, or we're dealing with both?
We're dealing with fraud. This is crime. We're dealing with contract fraud. In that report, it shows that there are irregularities even in the process of awarding contract. Ideally, it is clear. You know, the Procurement Act is very clear that when you want to award contract, you must publish in a national daily and give timeline, and it should be competitive. Now, most of these payments that were made, mind you, payments that were made from the Federation account, some of these contracts were never published. Again, some of these contracts were never executed. Never, but it was paid in full. Some of them were abandoned projects. In short, the worst part is the criminality in it is a lot of the payments that were made was not executed. So we're dealing with not only economic, but financial crime here. And this is fraud. You know, it's not about the irregularity. Yes, there were irregularity, but there is a crime being committed where contracts will be awarded without publication, where contract would not be executed and 100% would be disbursed and paid.
Just to piggyback on my question, you know, it's odd to have the report submitted to the public accounts, stakeholders of the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly for their own work, because, you know, what was supposed to happen was prior to this, the National Assembly has oversight functions over those ministries, departments, and agencies. So this was not supposed to have happened if the National Assembly had done its oversight properly. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, after having discovered this irregularity, the Public Accounts is, you know, submitting this report to the National Assembly Public Accounts Committee to oversight. Do you see, you know, an absurdity sort of in that space? Does the Public Accounts Committee have the, can it be a judge in its own court?
So now, in a Senate process, ideally, the National Assembly members, they have 2 or 3 constitutional functions. Create laws, ensure that they provide oversight function on executive. And without the National Assembly, this would not be a democracy. But let me tell you the reality. Now, you have a National Assembly members that go and lobby heads of parastatals and agency. You have a National Assembly members when it is time to defend budget. They tell civil society and they tell the media to go out that they would have a closed door session. What happens behind those closed doors? Most time is around negotiation. Now you have a National Assembly members that look for MDAs to put what they call their constituency project or their zonal intervention program in some of these MDAs, and when these budgets are approved or passed, then they go and lobby the Ministry of Finance to release these resources. So rather than undertake their oversight function, they lobby for resources. Some of them call it empowerment. Some of them call it, procure and give their constituents to show that they're working in Abuja. So when you have that, you will not have a National Assembly member that undertake oversight. Now let's also be practical. They go for oversight function. Who fund those oversight functions? Most time, it is the MDA that they are going to oversight, that would have a budget to pay for them to go for oversight. How would you oversight someone who is paying you? Now, you talked about the Public Account Committee, you know, if they had done their job, this shouldn't have happened, and how can they be judging their own case? I think, you know, they have an opportunity here to rewrite history. What do I mean? The Public Account Committee, now that they have this report submitted by the Office of the Auditor General, first, they should publish this report, make it public so we see the details. Second, let's have a public hearing. Bring all the heads of these MDAs, because it is people that are manning these agencies. It is people that have brought paper to the Office of the Accountant General that monies were paid from the Federation account. So bring all of these people to this public hearing. Bring the media, bring civil society and ask them, why did you pay this money? Where is this contract document? Why did you not publish? Okay, you've paid 100%. Has this job been completed? If they can do that, and that would help redeem themselves, and maybe this will send waves to MDAs so that this cannot repeat itself. We cannot continue to sit down and have this conversation when Nigerian people are not even enjoying the dividends of democracy.
Before I throw it back to Kayode, who is seated with you there, you mentioned it in passing, but in specifics, besides what you've just mentioned now, this public forum for us to engage them, because it appears impunity has taken to a new height in Nigeria. More like some of these guys who are perpetrating these things are, they are some sort of immune to whatever outcry we will put out as far as they are concerned. So it looks like legislative guardrails are not enough. What exactly can we do to bring people to really be accountable to the Nigerian people at the end of the day from where you sit?
We have anti-corruption agencies, and I don't think now is the time for them to wait for citizens to write petition. The Office of the Auditor General have did a diligent job in auditing the Federation account. They've submitted a report to the Public Accounts Committee, and because they have statutory power, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, can write to the Office of the Auditor General and say, can we get a copy of this report? And when they finish studying the report, they should start inviting, in some cases arresting some of these perpetrators, and then start prosecuting them and ensure that some of these monies are recovered and put behind. But I agree with you. Some of these people think that they are above the law, sadly. They think they are very strong men and women. They think that they have people, you know, in the corridors of power and nothing would happen. And if we continue like this, it will lead to anarchy. Why would we have a country that is not governed by the rule of law? Why would some individual think that they are above the law? This is criminal, this is crime, and people must be held accountable. Nobody should be above the law. Monies were paid, public resources, money that belonged to you and I as taxpayers, money that were generated from our natural resources were paid to individuals to provide dividends of democracy. Today, our national grid continue to fall apart. Rural electrification agency that is supposed to impact the rural communities, people. And if you look at data, the National Bureau of Statistics just released data. Over 60% of Nigerians are not connected to the national grid. Rural electrification agency are supposed to provide power, alternative sources of power to people in rural communities, and yet they are making payments to projects and contracts that are not executed. This is unacceptable.
So let's backtrack a bit and try to follow the trail. So monies are budgeted for, projects are budgeted for, and they're released for those projects, right, by the Accountant General's office, right? So if monies are released and they are not accounted for, who's meant to monitor that? Who's meant to ensure that these monies are accounted for?
The National Assembly, by providing oversight function.
Good. So the National Assembly has its own case to
yes.
answer. Good. So monies are maybe paid to contractors or not for projects. The projects are not done. Who's meant to ensure that those projects are done, or at least monitor the process?
Well, the anti-corruption agencies, civil society organization, communities that are meant to benefit. But mind you, for every project that is being awarded, by the act, the Procurement Act stipulates that the agencies in charge of procurement must also sign before these monies are disbursed, because there are processes to award this contract. So the procurement agency must always give clearance to the MDA before they even go ahead. One, to ensure that there is money in the Federation account. The Ministry of Finance have resources to cater for this, and also ensure that it's budgeted for and it's on a lot or a budget line.
Because I want us to understand the people or the groups of people that have liability, that have cases to answer, right? Because too many times, these cases are shocking. I mean, 197 billion naira.
Close to 200 billion.
And that's not just for the whole, that's not for the whole period. In fact, the Senate recently, and it just perhaps ties to the point you're making, recently frowned at the NNPC Limited and some others for not responding to all of these audit requests as a result of the 2019 audit report, right? So the Senate is still trying to battle, but they have a case to answer themselves. So I want us to properly say, okay, the National Assembly, the MDAs, the Accountant General's office, the procurement agency. Let us know the people that have cases to answer, so we can begin to then pressure them, either pressure the National Assembly and say, well, don't worry, these are the people we know that you should probe. Let us probe them and get a headway. So that's the point I'm trying to make, so we can at least move forward in this conversation.
I think first is to even know who are these companies that these monies were paid to. Because I'm sure that in the detailed report of the Office of the Auditor General, the names of these companies or these contracts that was awarded. Because again, you know, in government, when monies are paid to the federation account, for you to move money, you have to get companies who you now say you are awarding contracts to. And that's why the biggest elephant in the room is always procurement fraud. Because that's how you move public resources to private accounts and then collect kickback. Because again, if you don't collect kickback, why would you fold your arms and make 100% payment knowing that these jobs were not fully executed? Now, this company is number one. Two, what are the members of the National Assembly doing? Because for every agency of government, be it ministries, departments, or parastatals, there are committees set up to provide oversight functions. Now, these committee members have the budget allocation for all of these MDAs, and their role is to ensure that, one, they're not overspending. So whatever they are spending, so whatever contract they are awarding, it is within the budget provision, because you know that the budget itself is an act, it's a law. So it is against the law if you spend above. Ideally, you're even supposed to spend below the budget provision. The fact that the money is 2 billion does not mean you have to spend the entire 2 billion. Because ideally, as government, you're supposed to get the maximum impact with minimum resources.
So clearly, potential crime has been committed.
Crime has been committed.
There you have it, until, of course, we properly probe these things and even understand.
No, the report is clear.
No, I'm saying that until we then get these people and understand just how big a crime this is. But I want to talk about the point you made, the companies. We've seen cases where these companies belong to people, either the heads of the agencies or people in the agencies. And it's in broad daylight. You can just randomly go. I mean, we had the open government, portal where you can type maybe a particular, contract awarded by a certain agency, let's say correctional facility, and see maybe money for food, and see who the money was paid for, and then you see that this company rather belongs to somebody or is registered in the name of somebody who works in that particular agency. Just how rampant is this?
Oh, it is, and I'm glad that we have platforms, and because of the open government partnership, and now you can even check who are shareholders and who are directors of companies under CAC, because they have a fantastic database. And then you now say, what is also the role of there's this anti-corruption agency that ensures that when you're a public official and you declare your assets, and then
Code
of Conduct Bureau. Because ideally, as a public official, the only thing you're meant to do is farming. You cannot be on any board of any company. You cannot run any company. But sadly, the reality is when you go to these MDAs, and because we follow the money, we try to follow the money. We try to follow the money. You see collusion. In some people's drawer, they will bring company documents. They have their company to bid for contracts. And because the procurement process is not open, yes, we have some level of procurement data. I know some organizations like PPDC have Budeshi to populate procurement data, but there are not enough procurement data available. And sometimes when you even get procurement data, it is past procurement data you get. Even, the Office of the Auditor General find it difficult to audit some MDAs. They will go for audit function, and then they are not able to get documentations on how they've executed or how they've expended public resources.
So you can imagine how tough it is for journalists sometimes if we are trying to get this information, because it's meant to be freedom of information. But we have to thank you so much, Mr. Lawal, because this is an ongoing conversation, but we want to be sure that we are putting it on the front burner from time to time. So we put it in consciousness of the people. We do our bit, the people do their bit, and ensure the right thing is done. But we have to thank you so much. Hamzat Lawal, founder, Connected Development. Trying to follow the money.
Yeah, we're trying.
So I'm sure when you're done in the studio, you're following the money. You continue following.
We try.
Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
So there you have it. We hope we've been able to arm you with the appropriate information as either government, the National Assembly, even the people, to ensure that the right thing is done. But we have to end at this point. Thank you so much for joining us on the Morning Brief. I'm Kayode Okikiodu.
And just to support the conversation, SERP is asking the federal government to investigate the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs for 57 billion naira allegedly missing, diverted or stolen in 2021. You can reflect on that for the rest of the day as we continue the conversation. Join us again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
Well, I mean, Nigerians are tired of these discoveries. Let's just see people in jail and our money recovered. That's all. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. Bye-bye.